Hello, I'm Elise, and we're just going to look at the £1,000 trading allowance in this video. So what we're going to cover is what is the new £1,000 allowance, how do you calculate it, how can I take advantage of it, the big exclusion, make sure you watch the video through to at least this point, and how do I take advantage of it. So what is the new £1,000 allowance? It's available to claim from the 17-18 tax year. And basically, it provides for a complete exemption from income tax if total trading and miscellaneous income is below £1,000. I've put income in capitals for a reason there, and I will go into more detail in that later in the video. So what this means is that there is no income tax due, no need to register with HMRC, and no need to submit returns. But before you get too excited, it is not this simple. There are exceptions and complications that we're going to cover in this video. So how do you calculate it? The £1,000 exemption is based on income or turnover or sales, that all means the same thing, and it is not based on profit. So let's look at a couple of different ways that you can make sales and what figures you need to be including. So for normal door-to-door sales, which will probably form the bulk of most of your sales, it is the total customer order value that you need to include. That is regardless of what commission you make on it. So if you have made a sale to Jane in number 21 just down the road and her order value is £25, the fact that you only made £6.50 on that doesn't matter. It's not the £6.50 you're including, it is the full £25. You are handling that £25, that is your income. Again, for events and fairs, it's the total customer purchase value. So in the same situation, if somebody buys £25 worth of product from you and they give you £25, it's not the £6.50, £7, whatever it is you made in profit on that sale. It is the £25 you need to include. And completely differently, online direct sales. Now what I mean by this is your customer has clicked on your rep link and gone through to the Avon website. They have elected to get direct delivery to their home address or work address, wherever, and they have put their credit card details in for payment. In this situation, you are never seeing the total value of the sale. All you are ever going to see is the commission that you have received that Avon will put into your account. And a note on the handling fee that's charged by Avon, that is an expense. Don't net that off the commission in order to work out what your sales value is. It is the commission that you're including in this situation. The handling fee counts as an expense and should go into your expenses. What isn't included? Any expenses. You shouldn't include any expenses in calculating that £1,000 income. Any employed earnings, i.e. what you have earned through a job, you have received a pay slip that has taken income tax and social security out already, or any benefits. I don't think I've heard of anyone trying to include benefits in that, but just for completeness, I've included it. If you have a second sole trader business, the £1,000 allowance is per person, not per trade. So if you're already also a body shop, unique, any other kind of multi-level marketing representative, or you run another business on the side, for example, childminding, graphic design, candle making, window cleaning, I don't know, whatever you can think of, all the sales you make from these businesses are also included in your £1,000 if you're doing them as a self-employed person. So, can you take advantage of it? That's what most of you want to know. There are three options here. There's full exemption, which means your turnover is less than £1,000. There is partial exemption, which means your turnover is over £1,000, but your expenses are still under £1,000, or it doesn't apply, no application. So it means that your turnover and your expenses are both above £1,000. if your total sales are below £1,000, you have two options. Either don't register for a self-assessment and don't submit a return, and there's not really much more to say on that. Or if you need to register for self-assessment for another reason, or you have already registered for self-assessment, then you will still need to submit a return. But you just follow the instructions on claiming the allowance on the return itself. Now, particularly regarding Avon Reps, I just want to make a few comments about claiming full exemption. If you're a new rep and you have only done a few campaigns in the tax year, this may apply. Again, if you use your rep account with Avon for mainly personal purchases and you have very few, if any, commercial purchases, i.e. actual customers paying you full book price and you making the profit in the middle, then you may come below that £1,000 as well. But to put the £1,000 into context of the number of campaigns we have, in order to stay below the £1,000 income limit, you will need to have made fewer than £55 worth of sales or purchasing stock on average per campaign. Now obviously that is less than your minimum order value. So in order to make your minimum order value each campaign, the rest of it would have to be personal purchases. Otherwise your business isn't going to be making any money. So for partial exemption, this means your income is more than £1,000, but you can still take advantage of this if your expenses are still below £1,000. So basically, in this situation, you have the option to claim either £1,000 allowance against your income, or you can claim your actual expenses. If you choose to claim the £1,000 allowance, you cannot claim any other expenses. It is one or the other. You can't do a mixture. Now, particularly regarding Avon Reps, as we're a stock-based business, it's likely that only a very small number of reps will actually be able to fall into this category. And basically it will only count if you have just topped £1,000 in sales. Because with our stock costs, it means your expenses are probably just below £1,000. The other thing to note is you can choose on a year-by-year basis whether you use the allowance. So in your first year, and you might only have a few campaigns under your belt, so you qualify for full exemption. Your second year, you're starting to build up your business, you get about £2,000 worth of sales. So obviously at that point you fall out of the exemption completely. You can't claim any of the trading allowance. But year 3, you might get poorly and you're out of action for 5 months, and your sales go to 1,050. And your expenses are 950. So at that point you can claim it again in your third year. No application, this is fairly obvious. Sales are above £1,000, expenses are above £1,000. So in this situation you'll be better off claiming your actual expenses rather than the allowance. The big exclusion, right? Any sales to your employer will exclude you from being able to claim the trading allowance at all. Okay? So that means co-workers are fine, but if you were to sell, for example, a £9 eyeliner to one of the directors or partners at the company at which you're employed, you cannot claim any exemption at all. It precludes you completely from this £1,000 allowance. So at that point you will just have to claim your income and your expenses exactly as they are. So how do you take advantage of it? We've already covered this pretty much in some of the other slides, but I'm just going to go over it again. If you qualify for full exemption, if you haven't already registered and you don't need to register for any other reason, you can choose not to submit not to register as self-employed and not to submit a return for that year. And then once you go over, obviously then you would need to register and submit returns. If you are already registered, or you need to submit a return for another reason, you can submit a return, and there's an area, well, you you can submit a return, and there is an area on it for stating that you're claiming the trading allowance. For a partial exemption, you will need to submit a tax return as normal, and there is a page on there that allows you to choose whether you're claiming the allowance or whether you're claiming expenses. So if you're claiming the allowance, you just enter £1,000 into the allowance box. One thing to note though, if you're submitting a return and your income is lower than £1,000, and you put in, for example, £750, you can only claim £750 in the allowance. You can't claim more allowance than you've got income.